Alright everyone, liberals are livid right now. They are absolutely mouth-foamingly crazed with anger because Judge Cannon just dealt them a double blow. First and foremost, one of Trump's appointees for Specialmaster has been chosen, as I predicted would happen the other day, and indeed preemptively predicted was the most likely of the four people that were put forth to be chosen about a week ago, which is Raymond Dearie. Reagan appointee, judicial experience, Trump put him forth. He's been chosen as Special Master. Now this is a huge ground giver by the DOJ. They had to, in order to expedite the process so that they didn't have to hash it out with Trump's team, they had to go with one of his appointees, which is very, very interesting. Some people think that's because the DOJ and FBI have dirt on Dearie. I think it's just because they're panicked and they want to expedite the case as quickly as possible. I think they realize that going through more than 10,000 pages of material as Special Master to determine what is or is not pertinent is going to take quite a bit of time, and they're looking at a mid-October deadline that they want to meet because they want to get it wrapped up before midterms, probably for an October surprise. Either indictment or they'll do like the Comey thing. They'll come out and say, we're choosing not to recommend that Trump be charged, but we think he improperly stored things. They'll effectively pull a Clinton. Actually, that would be hilarious if they did. Trying to impact the midterms for political reasons. That is what they intend to do. Whether or not that timeline will actually hold out is an entirely different story, considering the bulk of material that is there. Now, we've got a separate story. Link in the description, archived, of course. Not only that, but Cannon rejected the DOJ's request for a stay on a previous motion, blocking them from looking at the materials. The problem is that, Cannon is trending right now because liberals are livid. Oh my God, why are you keeping the DOJ from doing its job? Let me explain something basic to the liberals. Orange man bad is not a legal argument. The fact that you think that Donald Trump is inevitably guilty as sin, is Hitler, is terrible insurrectionist, poopy baby, all bloated, all the other things that you say, does not nullify his rights to the Special Master in this case that's been granted to go through the documents. In order for Raymond Dearie to go through the documents and determine what can or cannot be used for the case against Trump that they're attempting to build, which itself is self-sacrificially stupid, he has to have access to the material before the DOJ rifles through it. And so the judge wisely, and having no choice because this is quite clearly the proper protocol to follow, is saying no, the DOJ has to wait until after we determine what they should be going through in the first place. It's fucking cut and dry. You can't just have a raid, take everything from a person, go through it all in a case where you're being contested at all, where the judge has already signed off on it being reviewed first, and say, okay, well, you can keep going through it in the meantime until we discover what you should be going through. That would cause... Judge Cannon is not being pro-Trump, by the way. Can I please tell the liberals out there with this decision? You'd end up with a mistrial even if you wanted to bring charges under any other circumstances. If you agree to have a special master appointed, the DOJ is not contesting the move. Originally they did. They let off on it and put forth their people because the judge decided there should be one. And then you don't follow the protocol with the Special Master that the court is commanding you to appoint, you have a mistrial. You could say, oh my God, Donald Trump really did give top secret intel on U.S. nuclear secrets to Saudi Arabia. Of course, this didn't happen. They've given ground on that stupid argument several times. But even if it did happen, you still wouldn't be able to prosecute him. Pursuant to the warrant, at least under the Espionage Act, you wouldn't be able to do anything because you'd end up with a fucking mistrial. Oh boy, wouldn't that be the self-own of the century? If the leftoids on Twitter were involved with this case, the case would have been thrown out by now. They really are that stupid. This is, however, ultimately a double loss for the DOJ and for the liberals, and watching them have a conniption fit over it is very, very funny. Here's what I suspect happens next, and I've been right all along so far, so I'm just going to go with my gut instinct. It's going to take Dearie some time to go through the documents. In the meantime, the DOJ can't do anything. They are stymied. I don't know about the timeline that's going to be involved, and it's not entirely sure whether the classified material will be prevented from being gone through by an individual who's not an intel, namely Raymond Dearie, the former judge appointed by Reagan. I suspect he'll have access because it's not really a security risk. Regardless, though, the bulk of the material there, if you look at the inventory list, was never classified anyway. Dearie now has to go through like 11,000 fucking pages of shit that's not even marked classified, and I think the majority of it will not be found to be pertinent to the case. What the American public, therefore, is going to see is 90+% of this material repatriated to Trump and or to the National Archives. Sort of, that's up in the air. But it's not going to be pertinent to an Espionage Act case. Remember, this case doesn't involve, originally, with the warrant filing, it doesn't involve repatriating documents that were being improperly stored. It involves the Espionage Act, not the Presidential Records Act. It's apples and oranges. The legal argument that's being made by people now is that Donald Trump didn't store things correctly. You're not even talking about an offense for which jail time would be recommended. I see people talking about blocking him from running for office for insurrection. Dude, if you were to nail Trump under any of the auspices that the warrant lists, he could run from his fucking jail cell and there's nothing that you could do about it. You'd also have to, I guess, have adjacent cells for the Secret Service agents that have to be with him 24/7. It'd be very, very interesting. This is, in my opinion, dovetailed in with the J6 failings and with Russiagate. We saw today, for example, McGonigal, I think it's McGonigal, his name, another FBI agent involved with the Russiagate hoax, with the investigation into that, is currently being investigated himself for possible collusion with Russian oligarch. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like this keeps happening time and time again. We'll probably find out some of the people involved with this witch hunt were involved with Russia too. It's almost like when they talk about Russian election interference, they're projecting. It's been bullshit from day one. The Steele dossier that was accepted was bullshit from a foreign UK-based source, actually. That was horseshit. The FISA filing was horseshit. The explanation of the deputy AG at the time saying, well, I signed the document, but I can't remember whether I read it. That's bullshit. J6 is bullshit. They're currently persecuting more people connected with Trump because they're desperately trying to grasp for anything that they can find. And they're carefully timing the release of leaks from all of these things that often turn out not to be true in the end anyway. This was certainly the case with Russiagate and my tax returns and Pissgate and the Gorilla Channel, among other things. Keeps happening. Why would I believe that this case will play out any differently from the half dozen other times that they've witch hunted after Trump because Orange Man bad? And the sour takes that you see from leftoids and liberals and Dem partisans in general on Twitter and elsewhere are very funny, but it's very telling. They're still outraged at Trump. A year and a half after he leaves office, they're still gung-ho for weaponizing the FBI against now a private citizen out of terror, out of abject fear that he will enter politics again. Pro tip, he probably will and he'll probably win, and then you can start crying for another 4 years. That's about all. Peace out.